Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to KGX to the Z TV. Do me a favor, hit them likes, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. Help a brother out. Appreciate that. But yeah, let's get into it. Match day 2 in the EPL has just concluded in dramatic settings as only the Premier League can do and Premier League can deliver. Liverpool with the last gasp winner in the Isak derby. 3-2 extra time, 100-minute winner. 16-year-old Rio, ex-Chelsea kid, making his debut, coming on as a substitute, scoring the winner, and then Liverpool holding on in the final seconds to get the 3 points, to go tied for top of the table, although they might be second on goal difference, but it's too early to look at the table. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into it. So we're just gonna cover. Let's take a look at all the matches that had just transpired this past weekend. It was a full slate, starting with Chelsea on Friday. We won't get into that one. We covered it in the match review. If you want to hear my thoughts on the Chelsea match versus West Ham, 5-1, go take a look at the videos, links. Drop a like on that one also. Drop a subscribe as well. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start from the most recent because it's the most fresh in our minds, and then work our way backwards, pause. But yeah, let's get it. 3-2 Liverpool, Isak derby. Crazy scenes in Newcastle. Liverpool literally walking into the cauldron of hell. If you remember, and if you're an old school fan like myself, you remember them old school UEFA Champions League away trips where you go to Galatasaray, you go to Fenerbahce, especially Galatasaray, and the big welcome to hell sign, the flares going off. No flares in Newcastle, of course, because they're banned in the UK, but you get all of that just excitement and all of that pent up anxiety just building over all weekend, bubbling over on Monday. Folks probably left work early, hit the pub, got some pints in, or maybe folks called out and just said, you know what? Monday, Tuesday is going to be a long holiday, long weekend. And it delivered. Boy, did it deliver. For the neutral, although I wouldn't class myself as a neutral, I am a self-proclaimed Liverpool hater. No doubt about that. Membership card dues fully paid. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into it. So obviously we know no Liverpool, no Isak for Newcastle. We know the backstory. We know all the events getting up to it. But let's talk about the match that we just saw. And I'll be honest with you, Liverpool scummed it. They scumbagged it, scammed it, got away with one, got away with murder, because they were absolutely awful all match. And before you guys say, KG, you're too much of a hater, credit where credit is due. I hold my hands up. That is what championship sides do. They win matches when they're not at their best, just like Arsenal did, although Arsenal's not a championship side. You got to win trophies to do that. But just like Arsenal did first week away to Old Trafford, performance was stinky, but you get out of there with 3 points. And at the end of the season, because it happened so early in the season, you look back on it. This one you'll remember. The Old Trafford versus United, they probably won't remember as fondly, but you look back on it and you say, got the 3 points. Don't care about the performance. We keep it moving. And that's exactly what Liverpool did. First half was a cagey affair. Tackles flying in everywhere. Challenges just coming left, right, and center by both sides. Both sides were getting stuck in. Dangerous tackles. Newcastle on the brink of self-destruct mode, and just the culprit of just having too much emotion, right? You know, in games like that are going to be emotionally charged. And Newcastle Liverpool late has been bubbling over. And then this Isak drama just sprinkled just a little bit of that extra sauce onto it. And we got the match that we got today. But yeah, Liverpool first half, not as bad, right? And we know going into it, it was tough for them because they were down two right backs, right? Frimpong out, hamstring injury. Connor Bradley not fit enough to start, but he eventually did come on. So they went with a makeshift. At first, it was Curtis Jones at right back, but then it ended up being Sabozalai at right back, Jones, Konate, Van Dijk, Kirkes across the back line, Allison in goal. They went with the Gravenberch and Gravenberch and Jones double pivot. Eventually, that's what it ended up being. And then in front of him, Verts, left Gakpo, right Salah, up top Ekitike. Newcastle lineup was the same as last weekend's with the Barnes, Gordon, and Elanga front three. You know their midfield three: Tonali, um, Bruno, and Joe Wellington, and then the back four. The only real question mark was Lewis Hall fit enough to start at left back, and he wasn't. So Livramento stayed there or started there, and then that pushed Trippier into the starting lineup. And I'll be honest with you, Trippier is done. He is well past it. Well past it. Not even his delivery is of the caliber to be starting for a team that's in the Champions League anymore. But I digress. And Liverpool, as Liverpool do, got a semi-early goal, I think like the 20th minute. A Gravenberch looked like Nick Pope was unsighted. Took a little bit of deflection on Shar, which might have been the difference between it sneaking into that near post and just going wide. But it did. I'd say at that point, I wouldn't say it was slightly against the run of play, because at that point it was just a matter of feeling it out. And I thought Liverpool, credit where credit's due, started a little bit well. Started better than Newcastle did. Newcastle eventually grew into the game, but as we've seen, I don't want to say time and time again, but as we've seen more frequently than not, Anthony Gordon is out of control. And the situation that led to his sending off, which was a correct sending off, and I get why Simon Hooper didn't send him off right away, because on TV, the way the angle is, and even in person, there was a lot of bodies in between those two. So you could see the contact, but you couldn't see how dangerous the contact is. And once it went to VAR and once they showed the replay, yeah, he was off, no doubt. But if you see the clip's been floating around on Twitter, he's flying around like a madman, just chasing down, and just, it's one of those things that it's that passion and it looks good, but you've got to understand and you've got to play with a little bit of control, because he teeters on that edge quite frequently, and he's not a stranger to the horrible challenges and getting sent off. And that's exactly what that is. Van Dijk's very lucky that he did not walk away from that, or did not limp away from that with a much more serious injury, because it was clumsy, it was nasty, and I'll be honest with you, it looked a little bit deliberate, because you could see that Van Dijk was gearing up to clear it long, maybe spray a diagonal. Gordon comes in and he tackles with his back foot instead of his right foot, which you thought he would lead with his right foot, because if he's trying to block the cross, or he's trying to prevent the switch, that's the foot you do it. And it was a clumsy tackle, terrible tackle, malicious tackle, rightly sent off right before halftime. And you get a player sent off before halftime, the whole St. James's Park just sucks the life out of it. Then to compound matters, Liverpool come right out in the second half. Ekitike scores, lovely, well-placed goal. I think he's got 3 and 3 if you count the Community Shield, but 2 and 2 in the Premier League. And you're thinking, all right, Liverpool 2 up, down a man or up a man, and this one should be curtains. But credit to Newcastle, credit to Eddie Howe. They dug deep. They pulled back into sort of like a 4-4-1, but with Barnes, who I thought was pretty poor today, but with Elanga, they always have an outlet. And then with their midfield, they're able to, and especially with the numbers that they had in midfield, they're able to control, they're able to break up play. And between Tonali and Bruno, both of them can pick a pass. And that's what they did. They started getting on the front foot, and it looked like most of the times they were the ones that had 10 men, or that had 11 men, and Liverpool had 10, because they just brought it to them. They got their goal back. Who was it that scored? I can't even remember. It was such a crazy game. Voice is gone. I was yelling at the TV, getting involved like it was a Chelsea game. But they get who was it? Let me see. Oh yeah, Bruno. Yeah. Bruno off a set piece. Bruno won a foul. Set piece in. He catches Kirkes at the back post. outleaps him 2-1. Kirkus was terrible all game. He's been terrible. He was terrible in the Community Shield. He was terrible versus Bournemouth. He looks like a player that's just he needs time to gel. He needs a little bit of protection, which he's not getting from his midfield. Van Dijk is doing what he can, but even with Van Dijk, everyone knows Kirkus's best attributes are going forward, and if you go forward, you're going to leave a lot of space in behind. So, good job by Newcastle to isolate Bruno with him on the back post. It's 2-1, and Newcastle are pushing and pushing and pushing. And even going back to that first half, Newcastle had opportunity after opportunity on the break when it was 11v11. Anthony Gordon had a couple of opportunities, had a header that he put wide. The chances were there, and Liverpool looked very, very vulnerable. And coming down the stretch, Liverpool or Newcastle get another one. This time with Asula, with just a route one ball over the top that Konate. I don't know if his mind is in Real Madrid or if his mind is in PSG, but he has put out 3 stinkers in a row. And when you're playing with a makeshift right side in defense, you can't do that. And schoolboy defending 1-on-1, lets the ball bounce, the ball gets over top of him. Osula does a good job, rounds Allison a little bit, puts it it kind of wobbles into the back of the net. It's 2-2, and you're thinking Newcastle's going to go on and win this. All the momentum's with them. They've been playing better. As you can see, the stats are on there. Possession is always going to be favor the team that has 11, but they were getting shots. They were getting targets. They were creating opportunities. They had Liverpool pinned back, which was super crazy. And they just, it looked inevitable at some point, and you could almost see the scenes and envision the scenes at St. James's Park erupting in this Isak derby. But credit to Liverpool. Liverpool does what Liverpool does, and they created one last opportunity. What does that say? In the 90th plus 10, it was 11 minutes of stoppage time. And I hear people talking on Twitter about, 11 minutes is too much. No, it's not. Shut up, people. It was the appropriate amount of time considering the time wasted or the time that was run off the clock in the second half. You had the Fabian Schär head injury, which was about a good 4 or 5 minutes there. You had Tonali going down twice. I think he looked like he separated his shoulder. You had Bruno G getting hurt. You had You had Joe Ellington getting hurt. Then you had mass subs for each time. I think each club used like 4 or 5 subs. You had a lot of fouls. 11 minutes was the appropriate amount of time. And I'm sure if somebody would actually break it down, stop clock or stop watch, you would see that it was pretty accurate. So going back to it, 90th minute plus 10, Liverpool's building up on their right-hand side. Salah gets the ball. Salah was just anonymous all game, looking every bit of 32, 33 years old. He plays a pass in the middle, too much space. Szoboszlai, terrible. I thought good defensively all game, but just terrible in attack and going forward. And credit to Szoboszlai because he played a lovely dummy on Livramento. He leaves it. Rio comes onto it first time, finesse, curled finish. If you'd have closed your eyes and just saw the shot, you would think that was Cody Gakpo. So credit to that kid. I know he's another Cobham kid, and a lot of folks were upset when he got away. You can't keep them all. Can't keep them all. I mean, there's just too much talent. I know he wanted a pathway to the first team. It is what it is. It is what it is. He's 16. I'll never fret too much over losing a youngster of that age that was in the academy that had never even made a first team appearance. But credit to the kid. His Premier League debut. What a fantastic finish. What a fantastic way to mark your debut. And yeah, I mean, he's a player that if Liverpool don't make any more attacking signings, even with Isak, he's a player that should be in and around that squad because, one, they need the numbers, and two, he's got the kind of quality and the kind of aggression that should develop and should get some spot minutes here and there where you just don't depend on him. But yeah, Liverpool steal the 3 points. They were out of there. They're headed back to Liverpool, snatch and grab. Probably place a cheeky bid on Isak tomorrow morning. You know how those things go. But yeah, credit to Liverpool. 3 points. They're champions for a reason, and they showed their grit. They showed the determination. So big up Liverpool. But the late game yesterday, Sunday afternoon, for us over here in the East Coast, Fulham Man United. Man United. I don't know. I want to say I don't know what to say, but I know a lot of things to say about Man United. And again, folks might come off as hating. I've had a couple of my United friends try to paint a picture that, I'll be honest with you, just it ain't there. But 1-1, crazy game in the sense that United has a very, very good record away at Craven Cottage. And for large parts of that game, Fulham played them off the park. Not scintillating stuff, but Fulham were the better team. Fulham deserved 3 points out of that. If anyone was going to get a winner, it was going to be Fulham. And all the good momentum that Man United built up, and as much as you can build up in a loss, they played well. I thought they deserved at least a draw versus Arsenal. They were unfortunate. Arsenal got the goal, set piece, ole. So you're thinking, all right, if you're a United fan, you want to build off of that, get the 3 points at Craven Cottage, try to win back-to-back games for the first time in God knows how long. But like United do, stunk it out. And who was at the heart of that? Bruno Fernandes. He was absolutely, I won't say he was terrible all game. There was times where he was tidy in possession, but Bruno does what Bruno does. And for all of the G&A that he gets, in this system, he's a net negative. He's not a 10, or he's not better than the 2 10s they have. He's not a double pivot. And you shoehorn him into the team because he's the club captain, because he gets the goals and assists, because he's their creative outlet, because he's also maybe got a little bit of obrigado tax. Shout out to Saeed TV for that one. He just had a very, very rough afternoon. And when you look back on it, you're like, yeah, he could have put it away. So basically, United get a lucky goal. I'll say lucky because it was an own goal, technically. Set piece. They play it in. Euro heads it off of a Fulham defender. And credit to Euro, because Euro was excellent all game. I thought he was excellent versus Arsenal. I think he's been one of their best signings that they've made in the last few years. For a center back that age, that young, that profile, for him to come into a dysfunctional organization, dysfunctional team with two below par managers, I thought he's been one of the shining lights the last 2 years, and he's a player that he's. It's going to be tough because France has their center backs are just stacked, but he's a player that should be in and around that French national team, or at least a fixture in years to come. But they get the 1-0, they get the 1-0 lead, and you're thinking, all right, they'll probably hold on. They get a fortuitous penalty. Bruno steps up. He walks back to make his run up. He bumps the referee. Bruno loses his head. He skies it. And then from there, it just goes downhill, as only Manchester United can do, as only Bruno Fernandes can do. And Fulham makes some subs. Amarin makes the wrong subs. Again, subbing on 2 center backs when you're trying to chase it. But before we even get to that, we'll just talk about the goal. They lose the ball on the right-hand side as they normally do in build-up when you press them high. Iwobi has the ball on the left-hand side all day to pick a pass. He finds Emile Smith-Rowe, whose run should have been tracked by Bruno. Bruno lets him go for a free run in the box. Euro's marking somebody at the near post, so it's not his responsibility. Iwobi's ball is inch perfect. Emile Smith-Rowe gets a tap in. 1-1, and you're thinking, all right, Fulham can do this. Fulham can go on. But what makes things worse is Amarin subs. 1-1, and instead of going for it, instead of bringing on a Kobe Mainu, instead of bringing on maybe an extra attacker, what does he do? He takes off Ahmad, brings on Dallo, who once again was horrible. He's been horrible for the better part of 18 to 24 months. He makes 2 substitutions for his center backs, which again, I've never seen a manager sub center backs so often as he does. And he brings on Heaven and Maguire. They end up Maguire gets 1 chance, a header. But if anyone looks like they're going to score in that game and get all 3 points, it's Fulham. Fulham have chances. They just unfortunately just don't create a quality high, big chance or high opportunity. And then they ultimately get the 1 point. But again, 1 point out of 6 for United. decent, semi-decent result for Fulham considering their history versus Man United at home. And credit to them. Credit to them. They should have held on. I know at the end of it, they probably felt like they deserved more. Iwobi and Mill Smith Rowe in their post-match interview pretty much summed up everything that's wrong with United, where they basically said, yeah, what the hell is their manager's name? But we figured him out. We figured that there was going to be space in between their midfield, and once there was, it was just easy for them to progress the ball. And you saw that at one point they had a double pivot of Bruno and Mason Mount, and you're just like, Amarin, like you can't win in this league without a good midfield, or at the very least a good midfield setup, and that's exactly what United doesn't have at the moment. They went out, they revamped their attack, but they left their midfield short. They left their keeper short too, although it looks like they're going to get a new keeper in. But without that midfield, without reinforcements, shoehorning Bruno into the team, it's a top 10 finish at best. I don't care how many attackers and how many goals they have up front. That midfield with Casemiro, with Ugarte, with Bruno, with Mainu not even playing, is going to get run through week in and week out. And that was a Fulham side, that a midfield that you're like, that's not one of the top midfields in the league. And they absolutely bossed the United midfield once again, which is kind of crazy because I thought United's midfield was generally better than Rice, Odegaard, and Zubamendi in the first one. But yeah, credit to Fulham. I know they're probably disappointed. Everton, Brighton, good win for Everton. Jack Grealish, 2 assists. Nice to see him finally playing again. They did sign Tyler Dibbling today, so Dibbling and Doy, Grealish with that young brother that they have up top that they just got, I think, Barry. So David Moyes might be cooking a little bit, and for them to lose in their first match, nice to see them get a win. Although it was at Goodison for the first, or the new Goodison, so they were going to be extra pumped. So good 3 points for them. Palace and Forest, little Marinakis derby. With all the things that went on, basically Forest kicking Palace out of the Europa League and into the Conference League, basically snitching on Palace and saying that they didn't do the paperwork, which they ended up. I don't feel sorry for Palace, to be honest with you. They should have done their precaution. They should have set things up like many other clubs do when they're in a deep club competition, when it comes to the filing paperwork and registration for multi-club models and things like that. But a good game nonetheless. Forest looks to be like a decent side, making a lot of good signings, but so much drama going on between Nuno and Marinakis that it can't be a good atmosphere. It can't be comfortable for the players. So credit to them. They get their draw. Palace went up 1-0. Forest came back. Hudson-Odoi with a nice goal. Caught him on a breakaway. Was able to kind of use his pace and use a little bit of his strength with a good strike that equalized. Got the point. Palace is going to probably have to do something in the market before. Maybe it's El Canous to replace Eze to kind of get that creative spark. But good points there. Arsenal leads. Arsenal 5, Leeds 0. Leeds were every bit of terrible. They had one opportunity in the first half to go ahead on a nice corner set piece. Great save by Raya. Reflex save. Right, you could say it was right at him, but still good reactions from there. But overall, it was Arsenal and just dominating Leeds in their half all match. You had Gyökeres getting off the board, getting 2 goals, a penalty, and a pretty nicely taken goal where he cuts in from the left-hand side off the transition and sort of bangs it in near post. Set pieces for them, again, big on them. But the big takeaways from there are just the 2 injuries. So you had Tonali. You had Odegaard going down with a similar injury of Tonali holding his shoulder. So we'll wait to hear about that. And then Saka going down once again with a hamstring injury. This time they're saying it's only about 4 weeks, but that might be a little bit too optimistic, and we'll have to see. He'll definitely get some time, and good for Arsenal that he did have this injury. Never good for Arsenal, but it's fortunate for Arsenal that this injury happened now because it gives him more time to heal up over the international break, 2 weeks and things like that. So he won't go away to England. Cole Palmer probably won't go away with England either. So, yeah, I mean, that's apologies, but that's it's not too much takeaways from the Arsenal Leeds game other than Leeds were terrible. Arsenal did what they had to do. games like that, you get your stats up, you get your young players in. Max Dallman getting the penalty that Gyökeres ultimately converted. They get the 5-0, get that goal difference up, and as they head into a huge one, as they go to Anfield, down their captain, down their best player. So we'll see what Arsenal kind of has in store next week. Brentford Villa, I did get a chance to watch this one. Watch it while I was working out. Aston Villa look in shambles. They look like a side that's in desperate need for reinforcements. And even though Brentford got the early goal and Aston Villa's second half was really peppering them and was on them, credit to Brentford for their resolve. Nice to see Keith Andrews get his first W. Thought he set the side up really well. Thought first half they were the better side. Aston Villa, like I mentioned before, John Ginn on the right wing in 2025 is absurd. And even though he was putting in some good crosses, highly predictable in the second half, you know what he's going to do. He's not going to beat you for pace. He's going to cut inside to that left foot. He's going to whip one in, and he's going to hope that Ollie Watkins gets on the end of it, Nana gets on the end of it. But yeah, they need signings. They need help. Emery needs to stop playing Morgan Rogers out wide and play him centrally where he can pick the ball up and run at defenders as opposed to sitting on the touchline. So yeah, there's a lot of problems over there in Aston Villa and not a good start. 1 point from 6 with being up a man at Newcastle, or a man advantage at Newcastle, and then on the road, at home, and then on the road to Brentford. So it's another slow start by them, but it is what it is. Burnley 2, Sunderland 0. So Burnley, good 3 points, especially after their first 3-0 loss at the Spurs. Good for them to sort of bounce back. A lot of folks immediately after that 3-0 to Spurs just automatically thought they were just going to go down. So not much to say. Sunderland looked good in their first match. This one they didn't. That's what newly promoted sides did. At the end of it, this season, Burnley might be looking back at this one as a 6-pointer if they're both in and around that relegation zone. So good win for Burnley. Good to see Leslie Ugochukwu play some minutes. Bashir Humphreys looks like he's still hurt, and Broja, shocker, is still hurt. So good for them. Bournemouth 1-0. Didn't watch too much of this to catch the highlights. Wolves look to be in trouble too, especially if they can't hold on to Strand Larson. But their side, they can't afford to go down the 10 men, which they ultimately did in this one. But they just, they're hurting right now. Losing Cunha was a big blow to them for their attack, for their drive. He's a player that, even though he's a little bit streaky, he's always going to be on the front foot, and he's always going to be a danger, and you need to account for him. And even though he was good in the United in the first half of the Fulham game, Wolves can't replace a player like that without coming out of the pockets and without splashing some cash. So good win for Bournemouth. Thought they played well and could have possibly deserved a draw versus Liverpool in the first one. But all intents and purposes, Iraola is a fantastic manager, and they're off and running. So kudos to Bournemouth for getting their 3 points on the board. The opener on Saturday, the noon kickoff, early kickoff here. Tottenham Hotspur 2, Man City 0. Once again, Spurs rock up to the Etihad, plant their flag in the middle of the pitch, and leave with the 3 points. And to be honest with you, 2-0 flattered City because it could have been more. City had one good opportunity where Haaland sort of picked the ball up, beat a man, got a sort of a lucky deflection, but played a nice pass into Mamouche, and Mamouche 1v1 with Vicario. Great save by Vicario, but you would expect a player of Mamouche's caliber to be finishing that. But apart from that, it was fairly comfortable for Spurs. And that's becoming all too familiar for them when they rock up to the Etihad. Doesn't matter what manager, Poch, Mourinho, Ange, and now Thomas, the Frank engine, 3 points. And like I said, it could have been 3. It could have been 4. And just way too comfortable. And Man City's just way too exposed at the back. Just defensively, John Stones looks past it. Ruben Diaz looks past it. Ait Nouri, who went off injured, not a good defender. Rico Lewis is not a right back. Their midfield looks slow. Nico Gonzalez, Bernardo Silva eventually came on. Rodri eventually came on. Cherky was MIA. Phil Foden came on, didn't do much. Man City's got a lot of things to figure out, and even though they started the season very well versus Wolves with that 4-0, there were moments in the beginning of that match versus Wolves where Wolves hurt them and gave them fits, but the quality just shone through. Reinders shone through, and for as good of a game as he had in that first match, second match he was anonymous. I wouldn't say a welcome to the Premier League, but up against better competition, he's going to have to raise his levels. He's going to have to adjust to the speed and the tenacity of it. But as much as I hate to say this, just credit to Spurs, credit to Thomas Frank. Fantastic manager, set his side up fantastically, just compact, disciplined, organized. They knew when to break. They did well against Man City's pressure. They alleviated the pressure when they had to go long to Richarlison. They went long. They got good performance from Jed Spence, filling in at left back for Udogie. Van de Ven and Romero were super solid. The midfield, once again, of Bentancur, Pape Matar, and who else did they have in there? I think they sort of went with the 3-5-2. We're just incredible. Or no, two in the midfield. We're incredibly solid. Brendan Johnson at the back post again with a nice little tap in. And then Mohamed Kudus just looks like the GNA hasn't come, and maybe, it probably will come, but he just looks like a different level and just super strong, hard to get off the ball, very physical, can relieve their pressure. They when you have a guy like that you can give the ball to, and that he's not going to lose it, and he's going to either get a foul, beat a man, take you further up the pitch. That's an outlet. That's a crazy, crazy outlet. And Kudus has just been on it for every game that he's played so far for Spurs when the lights have been on. Super Cup, first week versus Burnley, and now versus Man City. And we'll see. We'll see where they go from there. They've got a pretty favorable run to the start of the season. I think let's take a look at their schedule real quick. They've got Bournemouth next, which we'll see. Typical Spurs might lose, drop points, or lose that one, but they should be the favorite there. They've got away to West, a dysfunctional West Ham team. They've got a Brighton squad that looks out of it. Poor Wolves side, a poor Leeds side. Villa will be tough. Everton at the new Goodison will be tough, and then it gets sticky for Spurs, right? You got Chelsea, you've got United, although they owned United last year, you've got Arsenal, then you've got another London derby in Fulham, away at the St. James's Park, another London derby for Brentford before Forest, and then Liverpool, London derby again versus Palace, and then they start the second half of the season. So they've got a favorable run. For them, they need to really just get those points on the board, accumulate as many as you can before the fixtures start piling up. But Spurs will go only as far as Daniel Levy lets them go. If he doesn't give them reinforcements, if they don't get a Savio, if they don't try to get a Nico Paz over the line, it's going to be long for them, because you can't count on the creativity that Bergvall, that Kudus, and all those folks for the whole year. They need quality. They need attackers. They need players in there. Whether or not Daniel Levy does it, maybe he looks at him and says, look, you've won convincingly versus Burnley, convincingly away to City. Maybe you don't need players, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, we'll wrap this one up here. Quick little rundown of all the action. We won't get into the team of the season and things like that, or players of the week and team of the week, but we will say, if we have to give credit, I'm going to give credit to Spurs for the best performance of the week. Special shout out to Chelsea, special shout out to Arsenal, big shout out to the Liverpool for hanging in there, but fantastic week 2. It started off well for us, got spicy on Saturday, and then ended with a bang. Everywhere in between was a little bit blah, blah, blah. But you know how it is. Every game can't be a banger. But yeah, folks, hit those likes, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on, show a brother some love, and we will catch you at the next one. Peace.